Congressman, welcome back here.
Thanks, Jason. It's good to be back.
Does this decision from D.C. effectively kill the bullet train in Texas?
Dead in a door nail.
Really?
Yes.
After all this work that's been through with it, this thing's done.
It's done. The federal government's not interested in putting one Buffalo nickel towards this project. That's why they took back the $64 million grant to even study the efficacy of it. There is no partner. Texas Central is on paper only. It's got a couple of people that are liquidation attorneys. They've got an owner that just took over from the Japanese. I'm sure he got it for pennies on the dollar. This thing is dead because the only way this was going to happen, remember, the price shot up to $40 billion. Find me an investor who's willing to get his return on investment after 80 years on $40 billion.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. $40 billion buys 1,300 737s. Now this throughput was never going to make money, ever. There's not enough population in Dallas and Houston to make that a money-making effort. This was all about selling trains.
A Fort Worth firm ends up buying what's left of Texas Central and says this is a shovel-ready project right now. Can this firm do what Texas Central and the feds couldn't do?
Well, we have horses, and this project is about as shovel-ready as the stuff that's in our stalls back at home. There is no shovel-ready. There are only 15% of the parcels are purchased. They don't have the permits. They don't have any of the requirements either at the state level or the federal level, and they don't have the funding. Nobody's going to give money to this, and right now Cody Harris and the Transportation Committee are holding hearings right now with the people from Texas Central to talk about their books, who's been funding this. We had a question about foreign agent registration that probably spurred the Japanese to get out of it. This has met its logical conclusion. And just because somebody says something silly doesn't mean it's true. This thing is dead.
I look at European cities and Asian cities, and I've ridden these trains. These other countries are light years ahead of the U.S. when it comes to bullet trains. Why shouldn't the federal government invest in this, especially in a state that's growing as fast as Texas is?
Well, there's no money in it. They need to be concentrating on making Amtrak profitable as it is. You've got a whole bunch of taxpayer dollars here from Texas going to the coastal cities so that they can have train service on the West Coast and on the East Coast, but there's no market demand for it. There's not enough people to ride on it, and especially in this administration with this Congress, we're looking at ways to save money, not spend more, and this $69 million was going to be a waste of money. That was just for a study. How do you spend $64 million on a study? Where is that money going to go? So this was all one big grift. And remember, places that have Chicago, New York, that have mass transit, the mass transit was built when the cities were in their infancy. These cities are well developed. There's no place for it now, and there was never enough ridership. They never even cared about the ridership. This was a grift to get a hold of a whole bunch of trains.
Yeah, and the Houston station wasn't even downtown. It was out there on 290 and 610.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Think about,
it's
a high-speed rail. Do you
Sure.
think TSA would be involved? Absolutely. So you got to park your car, you got to go through TSA,
Right.
You got to get on a 90-minute train, you got to spend $500, and you got to rent another car down there to drive 30 minutes through Houston, at least. Anybody who drives through Houston knows you can't get 2 blocks in 30 minutes.
Republicans in D.C. are watching every penny. Where does the $64 million go now?
$64 million goes back into finding better ways to spend it through transportation, but we took it back, and as you mentioned earlier, how about we widen 45? How about we make the interstate system better? And Sean Duffy, I need to make it very, very clear that there were a lot of people involved in this over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. I want to give thanks to Sean Duffy, the new Secretary of Transportation, for being willing to say this is a waste of our money. Kevin Brady, former congressman from Houston against Morgan Luttrell, Cody Harris down in Austin, Ben Lamont, former state representative. This has taken 10 years, and I just happen to be holding the baton on this relay as we cross the finish line. So there's a lot of ways to spend that money better, but we're $36 trillion in debt, so we need to be finding better ways to spend that money. As an aside, I was in a roundtable with the new EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, last night. This government, this federal government, this executive branch is trying to make businesses be able to operate with a profit in a far more efficient manner than we've ever seen before, and they're in a hurry to do it.
Let's talk about the SAVE Act here for a moment. You were the presiding officer in the House when this passed recently, and if this passes, the Senate becomes law, it would require voters to show proof of citizenship, such as a passport or a birth certificate, in person when they register to vote or renew their registration to vote. I look at this, and I've reported on voting for a long time in Texas. Voter fraud doesn't exist here in this state. Why in the world is this necessary to get this passed?
I'll disagree gently with you a little bit on no fraud here. There's fraud everywhere. There always has been.
But there are 154 cases over 20 years. There's more measles cases right now in West Texas, and the government isn't responding the same.
If you're going to go vote, you need to prove that you're a citizen, and you need to show you are who you say you are. And Texas has done a lot through the state legislature and just being very good in local governments in ensuring that fraud is limited. But this 50, we had members of our staff go out to various voting places, particularly in New Mexico, where people walked in without any identification at all, could not speak English, and voted.
Were they on the voter roll?
A name was on the voter roll, and that name was used to vote. So that's over these 50 states. Not everybody's as good as Texas, but I think for standardization of a federal election, this is a smart thing to do.
What do you tell your constituents who don't have a passport, who may not have a readily available birth certificate, or women who, I've gotten married and their birth certificate maiden name doesn't match their married information?
Sounds like great casework, and we'll be happy to take that casework on and ensure that they have the proper identification so they can
At
vote.
your staff office?
At my staff office, that's right.
Are you concerned at all this would bar people from voting, prevent
No.
people from voting?
No.
Not at all?
No. Again, that's casework. That's my job. We love doing our job here at District 6. We have 2 great offices that people can walk in and go, I need a passport. We can get that done in 3 days. I need a driver's license. We need a record about our DD-214 for our military service. Yeah. We're good at that. So if somebody really needs it, we can do all the legwork for them. All they have to do is come say hello.
Let's talk about tariffs here, Congressman. Texas farmers, we were talking to Sid Miller, the Agriculture Secretary, recently, right here in the same chair. Mm-hmm. Texas farmers unable to sell cotton to China right now. We're the biggest cotton exporter in the country, as you well know too. Exports are costing Texas businesses considerably more. How long can Texans and Texas sustain these tariffs?
First of all, these tariffs are a means of negotiation for the president. He's talked this way for 40 years. The tariffs that were instituted after World War II in order to prop up fledgling governments and their economies are still in place 80 years after the fact. So it's time for an evening out of the field. And we are going to find ways to make sure that, particularly in the farmers' case, the president tweeted about this yesterday, that we're going to assist our farmers as long as they need in order to make sure they stay afloat. So,
but that's a bailout for farmers, but how about the rest of us, you and I, who've seen these massive hits to our retirement accounts?
Mm-hmm. Well, except the market has come back up. So it's an uncertain time for a lot of people. But what we do tell folks is this is a negotiating point for him. He's going to be negotiating personally with Japan, I believe, today or tomorrow. And just wait for a couple of minutes. This administration is only 2.5 months old. Give it a couple of weeks, and I guarantee you what you see in a couple of weeks is not what you're afraid of today.
We're only 90 days in. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jason. Thank you.